I'm going to be ranking every one duel from the Harry Potter films from absolute worst to the very best. My ranking will be based on how I felt the very first time I saw the duel without any previous knowledge since I haven't read or listened to the books yet. Coming in dead last, we've got Harry's brief clash with Sirius in the Shrieking Shack. To be honest, I usually skip this part of Prisoner in Azkaban. It's one of the worst scenes for me. The whole scene just feels more like a setup for the big reveal about Peter Pettigrew than an actual fight. And the scene as a whole, I just don't enjoy watching. I just don't find it interesting. Harry's just angry and confused, throwing spells without really knowing what's going on. It's not very memorable, and I didn't find it particularly engaging. The story picks up after this, but in this moment, it's just not for me. Next up is Dumbledore's army versus the Death Eaters in the Order of the Phoenix in the Department of Mysteries. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing Dumbledore's army in action, and the teamwork was great, but the whole thing felt just kind of predictable, like you knew the kids weren't going to win. I guess I just thought they were going to run away. I didn't think the adults were going to turn up, but I just didn't really get it, and you just could tell they weren't going to be able to beat the Death Eaters. The stakes were high, but the fight itself just didn't have the package that I was hoping for. At 16, I've put Sirius Black versus Lucius Malfoy in the Order of the Phoenix. Now we're getting into the more interesting confrontations. Sirius taking on Lucius in the Department of Mysteries is a cool moment, especially since there's so much bad blood between Harry and Lucius. But aside from the personal stakes, I just didn't have much substance for me. It's nice to see Sirius standing up for Harry and the Order, but it's over pretty quickly to really leave a lasting impression. But it was still a nice touch to kind of add to the larger battle that happened there. 14, I've done Harry, Hermione and Ron versus the Gringotts Goblins in Deathly Hallows Part 2. The escape from Gringotts has a lot going for it. There was a lot of action, high stakes, and some funny moments with the goblins. I just found it funny seeing them running around. But the actual magical combat, it's over in a flash. I really love the build up to this scene with the trio sneaking into the vault, but the battle itself doesn't leave much room to shine really. I mean, the escape on the dragon, but I wouldn't say that's really part of the duel. That's just them getting out of there. It's more about the escape than the actual fight, so while it was entertaining, it's not a standout. Next up is Harry, Hermione and Ron versus Draco, Crabbe and Goyle in Deathly Hallows Part 2. This scene in the Room of Requirement is chaotic, dangerous, and a little bit shocking, to be honest. When Crabbe's fire spell gets out of control, it's crazy to see a Hogwarts student actually die. I'm pretty sure that is the first time we see a student die, or I could be wrong, but the tension's through the roof, especially when Harry chooses to save Draco despite everything that's happened between them. At 12 is Harry versus Draco Malfoy in The Half-Blood Prince. The rivalry between them two had clearly hit its breaking point here, but it did feel good that Harry finally gave Draco a reality check. But it was also a pivotal part of the story when Snape came in to save him, so I think 12 is fair. Harry versus Draco Malfoy in the Chamber of Secrets. The dueling club scene in the second film is memorable for one big reason, which you probably already know. And then, of course, everyone's reaction to him speaking Parseltongue. It's a moment that sets the stage for more suspicion and mistrust of Harry, even though he doesn't fully understand what's happening himself. I mean, the duel itself was brief and pretty below average, but the kind of questions it put in my mind when I saw it for the first time of why, it's the second time we've seen him talk like a snake. Or, well, we actually saw him talk like a snake this time. The last time he just talked to a snake who could understand him in English. It just threw more questions up there of what does this have to do with the story? So that's why I've put it where it is. Now we're into the top 10, starting with Battle of the Seven Potters, Deathly Hallows Part 1. This scene had so much potential, and while I love the build-up, the anticipation of seeing all the different types of Harry trying to escape, it didn't quite deliver in the way I'd hoped. The action is fast-paced and the stakes are high, but the focus on Harry and Hagrid means we actually don't get to see much of the other duels happening around them, which I thought would have been one of the most interesting parts. I'd have just loved to see more of the individual battles, which is why it sits at number 10 and not higher, still it's an important moment that sets a tone for the final stretch of the series. Number 8, Professor McGonagall versus Severus Snape, Deathly Hallows Part 2. Alright, this one is just pure satisfaction. When McGonagall finally stands up to Snape and drives him out of Hogwarts, it's such a pivotal moment. Throughout the series, McGonagall has always been a strong presence, but seeing her take action like this, it's just a whole new level. The shock factor of McGonagall being the one to challenge Snape makes it even better. You're just not expecting it to be McGonagall. And obviously, it's a huge moment for the Battle of Hogwarts. Number 7, Harry, Hermione and Ron versus the Death Eaters in the cafe duel, Deathly Hallows Part 1. This one really caught me off guard. The trio is in the cafe, which seems like, to me it seemed like a safe space because of Harry's previous cafe encounter where he's chatting up the girl. So I've kind of let my guard down while I'm watching them in this scene in the cafe, and then they're suddenly just ambushed by Death Eaters and the tension just skyrockets. For me, this scene just kind of gave me a reminder of just how relentless Voldemort's forces are and how nowhere is actually truly safe for Harry and Ron and Hermione as well, or whoever he's with. The fight is pretty short, but it's intense. It's out of the blue, and it's one of them moments that makes you sit up and just pay attention. Number 6, Severus Snape versus Harry Potter Half-Blood Prince. After Dumbledore's death, Harry is filled with rage, grief, all them kind of emotions, and he takes it out on Snape. And this encounter is less about the magic and more about the emotions behind it. But when Snape reveals he's the Half-Blood Prince, I was like, hang on a minute. And it just had so much more depth to Snape's character. It's not just a battle, it's a revelation that changes everything Harry thought about Snape as well. So the tension was thick and the impact on the story is huge. Alright then, top 5. Molly Weasley versus Bellatrix Lestrange, Deathly Hallows Part 2. Molly's showdown with Bellatrix is one of the most satisfying moments for me in the series. By this point, Bellatrix has caused so much pain killing Dobby, Sirius and countless others, and you're just waiting for her to get what's coming to her. But who would have thought it would be Molly, the loving second mother to Harry, who probably hasn't cast a spell in years, or a serious spell in years, and she's the one who ends up taking her down. So the shock factor combined with that iconic one-liner just makes it an unforgettable moment. Alright, so here's the big one, but I've put it at number 4. It's the final showdown between Harry and Voldemort. This is a culmination of everything the series has been building towards, and while it's satisfying to see Voldemort finally defeated, I've got to say it just felt a bit predictable by this point. We all knew Harry was going to win, especially after he survived in the forest. Well, I felt like I knew he was going to win. I don't know what everyone else thought when they were watching. But, I mean, the tension was still pretty high, and seeing Voldemort's downfall is just satisfying. It's a fitting end, but it's not quite the top one duel for me. Top 3. Albus Dumbledore versus Voldemort in the Order of the Phoenix. I don't think I need to state the obvious about the visuals in this scene, and obviously it being in the Ministry of Magic, I think just made it even better. But what this fight really highlighted for me was just, it makes you realise just how strong Dumbledore is and how dangerously powerful Voldemort is as well. After this scene, I was just sat there wondering, like, if Dumbledore, this king of wizards that everyone just respects and says is like the most amazing wizard, if he's struggling against Voldemort, then how is Harry ever going to have a chance of defeating him? So this scene definitely earns a spot in the top 3 for sure. Number 2, Harry, Dobby and Co versus Death Eaters at Malfoy Manor, Deathly Hallows Part 1. I absolutely love this scene at Malfoy Manor. The main thing for me was how the Death Eaters' arrogance about the house elves backfires on them, leading to Dobby's heroic rescue. The fact that Dobby's actions save the day only for him to tragically die moments later just makes this scene even more powerful. It's a turning point in the story, but a proper gut punch emotionally. And then finally, number 1, you've probably guessed it. I imagine this is most people's favourite. Harry versus Voldemort Graveyard Battle in the Goblet of Fire. Here we are, number 1 spot. It goes to the graveyard confrontation, and this scene has everything: tension, fear, bravery, and massive importance to the overall story. Build-up's incredible, from the eerie maze to Cedric's death to the moment when Harry decides to face Voldemort despite the odds are completely stacked against him. It really did just have a bit of everything and just put you on edge of your seat for the whole battle. It's definitely got the most depth of any duel in the series, making it an easy pick for the top spot. So that's my ranking. Let me know what you think. Was there any that you didn't agree with? Was there some that you did agree with? Even stick your list of rankings in the bottom. Was there any that I missed? Were you surprised by any of the choices? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to check out some of our other videos that are on your screen now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.